Hey guys, welcome back to Trek on the Tube. Thank you so much for your patience. I know it's been a minute since that big San Diego Comic-Con event. And, you've probably been pounded with news from the internet about all sorts of things Star Trek related. So have I. Trust me, it's overwhelming, to say the least. Even as I write this script, I still don't know whether or not I'll be making one or two videos because, let's face it, the Comic-Con news is huge, but there's not even just that to talk about. There's also the Tarantino stuff as well, and the CBS and Viacom merger. Anyway, the objective, though, is to still make one video, even if there's so much to take in, so much to talk about, and, I want to make this video precise and quick. Or at least as quick and as precise as possible. I don't want to go crazy with the theories or get bogged down in the details of every shot of the trailers. I just want to deliver the information, and then you're free to do what you want with it. On a side note, there were already plenty of people out there doing frame-by-frame analyses of the trailers. There are also very interesting Theorycraft and Speculation videos as well. I'll put some links in the description for you to check that out, along with the usual links to the official sources I used and referenced. Full disclosure, I did not watch the San Diego Comic-Con panel live. I was taking a nap at the time because I just got home from work and I was friggin' exhausted. Anyway, I've spent many hours since then watching everything, reading everything that's been said, talked about, or shown, and I've been taking a lot of notes. Hopefully I won't forget anything. I might forget something. If I do, I'm sure you won't hold it against me. Anyway, we start with Star Trek Discovery. Let's go. Season 3 is on its way. Here are the first official pictures. They feature Michael Burnham and a new character known as Cleveland Booker, aka Book, portrayed by David Ajala. You may know the guy from Supergirl. He's been recurring on that show as Manchester Black recently. We don't know too much about him apart from his short description. Smart and capable, Ajala's Book has a natural charisma and a devil-may-care attitude that tends to get him into trouble as often as it gets him out. Now, we don't know much more about the season in general either, apart from the fact it will indeed take place about 1,000 years after the events of the first two. Kurtzman took the time to specify that part of the season will be about how the crew needs to locate each other. Without going too far into theory crafting, I think it's safe to assume it's Burnham that's been separated from the rest of the crew. After all, they were on the ship while she was in the Red Angel's suit. Kurtzman also specified they did not arrive at Terralisium, the planet they were intending on going to at the end of Season 2. The pictures are most definitely from the first episode. One can clearly see it's Burnham stranded on this unknown planet. She meets up with this Book character after arriving in her suit. He then seemingly lent her a jacket. Apparently they've been filming in Iceland this season, and this is what you're seeing in all these pictures. There isn't much more to talk about. Kurtzman did drop a few comments on how Star Trek works well when we dive into the family theme. The crew is the family, that kind of thing. And it would seem they're going to try and build on that a little more this season. It would make sense to do that because Discovery has now put itself in a Voyager type situation, lost, alone, far from home. He also threw the word canon around quite a bit, and it always feels like they don't quite grasp the concept of canon when they talk about it, so I don't know what to think about that. And it isn't just an Alex Kurtzman thing. David Ajala did the same thing in some other interview, and so did Sonequa Martin Green. They always talk about canon, but they don't quite understand it. Here's a quote from David Ajala. "We are departing from the canon, but canon will always be the North Star." Dude, come on. Seriously. They seem to believe canon is some sort of idea or a concept. Something intangible. It's not that complicated. Goddamn. Kurtzman also mentioned respecting Roddenberry's vision at some point, and there is still no news about who will captain the ship, if that interests you. And that's it. Sonequa Martin Green dropped a few lines about Burnham having to rediscover who she is now that so many elements that made up her past are gone. That kind of stuff. And that's all the Discovery news for now. I know it's not much, but if you're a fan of the show, you can at least rest assured Season 3 is well on its way. Alright, let's transition into the Star Trek short treks. As we've known for a while now, 6 are confirmed, 4 are indeed live action, and 2 animated. We know virtually nothing about the animated ones except for the fact they have nothing to do with the upcoming Star Trek Lower Decks or Nick Trek, be it story-wise or in style. Ethan Peck seemed to imply they were connected to Picard. Actually, no, he said they are connected to Picard. He said 3 are connected to Discovery, 3 are connected to Picard, but no one on the panel mentioned that. On the contrary, Kurtzman Kurtzman took the time to say that one of the live-action ones will tie into the upcoming Star Trek Picard show, I mean, he would mention it would serve as some sort of a prequel or backstory. He said it's a Picard teaser, to be precise. It will give you a sense of what happened to Jean-Luc 15 years before we enter the series. That makes me believe Peck is simply mistaken, especially considering these actors always seem to use the wrong words. I mean, Rebecca Roman says that each Discovery-related short trek takes place in a different timeline. She clearly means different point in time, which are two very different things. Anyway, back to the Picard short. I don't think it'll be a compulsory watch, even if you're excited about Star Trek Picard. I mean, these short treks tend to add a little context to certain situations, but haven't been necessary so far to understand the plot of the main show. Of course, I will be reviewing it, so if it turns out to be truly important, I'll tell you. We finished with the 3 other live actions. I've been throwing some stills from the trailer we got on screen for you to see as I speak. All 3 will feature Spock and or Pike and or Number 1. One is a triple story, one is Spock and Number 1 trapped in a turbolift, the other seems to be a Pike mission. All the episode titles were revealed and they are Ask Not, Q&A, The Trouble with Edward, The Girl Who Made the Stars, Efame and Dot, and Children of Mars. I don't really know what more to say. Chaos Theory was indeed just a working title after all. Q&A is the title of the Discovery-related short trek that takes place on the Enterprise. It's the one that features Spock and Number 1 trapped in a turbolift. There you go. I mean, I'm a huge fan of the short treks format, though admittedly the first season was kind of hit and miss. And I get the feeling it'll be the same here. I'm kind of disappointed, but we'll see. I mean, yeah, it's nice they brought back Pike and the gang, but on a very personal level, I think they're limiting themselves and trying to connect the short treks with the shows or characters that they're currently using. I feel like using the 15 to 20 minute format to give us completely far-fetched and outlandish sci-fi concepts that they otherwise would have trouble working into an actual episode would be a better route to take. But maybe that's just me. Okay, it's time. It's finally time to talk about what I'm truly hype about. Star Trek Lower Decks. Now this didn't get as much coverage as the all-powerful Star Trek Picard because, I mean, let's face it, it's less important, dare I say. And it also didn't get a trailer, which doesn't help. But I am so excited for this show. Alright, bear with me here, but before we go over the very little information we got, I'd first like to take a minute to explain why this is so important to me. Aside from the fact I find the concept brilliant. I am a huge fan of the animated series. Yes, the animation is shit. Yes, sadly not all the original series cast were brought back to voice their characters. And granted, it doesn't really feel like a kid's show, if that's what you're looking for. But the animated series is great. I have a tendency to count it as the 4th season of the original series because, I mean, truth be told, that's exactly what it is. It's also basically marketed as such because, you know, it comes in the same box sets as the original series. But even as its own thing, it works very well. In some instances, it even works better than the original series because each episode is only 20 minutes long, so the story isn't pointlessly dragged out. The problem is, many people seem to spit on the show even without having seen it. And there's also this ridiculous debate about whether or not it's canon. Does it count within the Star Trek story? Well, it does. It very much does. There was a short time where it didn't, but I mean, it has ever since 2007, so yeah. Anyway, Lower Decks being another canon Star Trek animated series, I mean, it feels like it's going to help validate the animated series in some way. That's why I love it so much, that's why it's so awesome, and it's so meaningful to me. Alright, so Lower Decks. It's a show created by one of the writers from Rick and Morty, Mike McMahon, and let me just read a few quotes from the panel to give you an idea of who he is and what he enjoys in Star Trek. Also, it might give you an idea of what to expect with the show. Lower Decks is a half-hour animated show. It focuses on 4 ensigns who are serving on a not important ship in Starfleet. It takes place in 2380, right after Star Trek Nemesis. He then later said, I am a TNG guy. For me and TNG, I was there for the B stories. You know, Riker is trapped on a planet with his transporter clone, great, I love that, but Data and Geordi are writing a play and getting into a fight about it. That's what I want. I love that stuff. So now you kind of get where he's coming from. Mike McMahon enjoys the mundane or day-to-day aspect of a starship. What you're seeing now are the bridge officers. Apparently they think the show is about them, but it's not. It's about these 4 ensigns, which we learnt a bit about. First off, Ensign Beckett Mariner, voiced by Tawny Newsome. She's always very irreverent and a badass and doesn't follow the rules. She is very good at all things Starfleet, she just doesn't care. She has been demoted a ton of times, she should be way further in the ranks than she is. She is just kind of like a weirdo rock and roll party queen who wants to ride her skateboard and eat her piece of pizza in peace. Second, Ensign Brad Boimler, voiced by Jack Quaid. He said, I play Ensign Brad Boimler, and that expression says it all. He is basically the opposite of Mariner. He is very by the book. He really wants to be captain. He is very book smart but constantly constantly getting in his own way. He gets very in his head. Third, Ensign Tendi, voiced by Noelle Wells. It's her first day on the ship in the pilot. She was a huge Starfleet fan, even through Starfleet Academy. So being on the ship every day just blows her mind. There is no job, she's in the medical bay, and there is no gross alien illness that she's not absolutely thrilled to be dealing with. She is also hilarious and just a source of joy. Lastly, Ensign Rutherford, voiced by Eugene Cordero. He is our engineer. Like Geordi LaForge, he is amazing at engineering stuff, but unlike Geordi LaForge, he doesn't solve the problems at the end of every episode, because he is learning, and sometimes science is about learning stuff and making mistakes. He has this cyborg implant on his head that he just got, and it's like when you get a new phone and they got rid of the button. I mean, do I swipe now? Alright, those are the characters. Plot-wise, we have nothing to go on except that apparently the holodecks will break down quite often, but that doesn't seem so much a plot point as it does like more running joke that they'll have. Yeah, the show will follow the adventures of these 4 ensigns, and that's about it. The first season will feature 10 episodes and will air sometime in 2020. Hot damn. I'm so pumped. I just can't wait for this. This is pure joy to me. Alright. Moving on to the big thing that everyone wants to talk about, Star Trek Picard. Now for starters, the big news, the main news, is there's a trailer, an actual 2-minute trailer that sets up intrigue, action, adventure, raises so many questions, and best of all, it acknowledges the other iterations of Star Trek and ties into pre-existing elements of Star Trek lore. Now, I won't be doing a shot-by-shot breakdown here, as I mentioned in the beginning of the video, but I will be throwing up stills that I find interesting, and I will talk about how they relate to the information we've been given so far. First thing we need to talk about is the timeline of events, because even if there are not that many dates, a lot of them are very close together and it can get confusing. The events of Nemesis took place in 2379. That was the last time we ever saw Picard on screen. Now Star Trek Picard, the new show, will pick up in 2399, 20 years later. In that time, Picard was promoted to Admiral in 2381. He led a giant rescue armada that's been mentioned multiple times in 2384. And then he retired in 2386. And then, in 2387, the Hubble supernova occurred and Romulus was destroyed. That was seen in Star Trek 09. Currently, virtually nothing of the plot has been revealed. We only have snippets of information that don't even seem to relate to each other, and it's a friggin' nightmare because I don't know how to write them into this video without weaving a theoretical scenario. So I'll tell you what, I'll do this the old-fashioned way. I'm just gonna bombard you with bullet points, and then that's it. You'll just, I'm sure you'll be able to process the information. It'll just be a jumble of things. Okay, red alert, brace for impact. Picard retired impulsively. It never sat well with him. He regrets it. He lives on this vineyard with 2 Romulans and a dog. The dog is a very good boy. He's called Number 1 and he won't be going to space. The other characters will, however, because someone felt the need to specify that at least some of this new Star Trek show will take place in space. This is Data. This is before. This was confirmed by Brent Spiner. Data is in the show, but not in every episode, and not in the way we think. Boy, do I look stupid now for saying that I didn't think he would come back. I mean, I truly didn't believe he would come back. Brent Spiner said multiple times that he didn't want to come back to Star Trek, but yeah, I guess acting with Sir Patrick Stewart one last time, changed his mind. Anyway, moving on. Riker and Troy are also in the show, but they just have cameos. Seven of Nine is in the show, and she's in multiple episodes. Hugh, the Borg from those 2 episodes of The Next Generation, is in the show. Hugh is no longer completely Borg, and he's grown in the capacity of leader, which was pretty much where we left him the last time we saw him. Jonathan Del Arco is reprising his role. Picard is older and somewhat changed, but still very much Picard. They made a point of saying that. These 2 characters are from his past. This guy, Cabrera, is playing, used to be a Starfleet officer. This is a Borg cube, and there are force fields around it. This sign here seems to imply that the Borg cube is no longer active and serving as some sort of Borg prison held by the Romulans. These are Romulans, so many Romulans, bald Romulans, bearded Romulans, loyal to Picard Romulans, angry Romulans friggin' everywhere, but this is an Andorian. Okay, fine, that's useless information, but you know I love my Andorians, so if I see one, I gotta mention it. This season will have 10 episodes. 7 of 10 have been shot. Picard only very rarely wears the uniform in the show, and that's because Sir Patrick Stewart, being involved with the writing, didn't want to go back to the uniform. But at some point he felt it was necessary to put Picard back in one. It's surely a flashback scene or something like that. This is a Voyager and Deep Space Nine style comm badge first used on Star Trek Generations. This woman is in grave danger and seeks Picard's help. There are a million theories about who she is right now, but nothing is actually confirmed yet. This is the Captain Picard Day banner from The Next Generation, although not exactly. This is Vasquez Rocks, you know, that place where so many things are shot, you know, so many movies, so many TV shows, in particular, the fight with the Gorn. And I think that's about it. I mean, I could speculate. I could go over the 18,000 possible scenarios I have in my mind, but I think I'll just leave that up to you. It looks amazing. I mean, it might be shit, but it looks amazing. No, seriously, I know there still are a few skepticals out there. There are a few people that weren't necessarily impressed by this trailer, and I mean, that's fine. Personally, I'm still waiting on that one Star Trek show that's episodic and takes us to strange new worlds every week, and it's all about exploration, and it's the best crew in Starfleet. I want that. I think that should be the baseline Star Trek show, but that doesn't mean all of these other Star Trek shows that they're doing are gonna suck. It doesn't mean they're gonna be bad. Quite the contrary. This looks like it's True Detective crossed with Firefly, crossed with Star Trek, and it couldn't be more awesome. Cut to a very fun fact that some awesome fan realized on Twitter. 7 of 9 appears at 7/9 of the trailer. I don't know if they did that on purpose. I mean, they must have. That's friggin' awesome. Anyway, I'm really, really hyped for Star Trek Picard. I mean, honestly, the trailer blew my mind. It delivered so much more than I thought it would. Anyway, I'm going to finish this off with a few unrelated tidbits, information that was dropped outside of Comic-Con, before Comic-Con, etc., etc. The CBS and Viacom merger is apparently going to happen. It's just a matter of time, so, you know, that's gonna be good. Finally, Star Trek will be all under the same roof. 5 Star Trek movies are now available on Amazon Prime, which doesn't seem like important news at face value, but I think there's more going on here. It would seem like CBS is teaming up with Amazon Prime to hold and distribute all Star Trek content internationally in the future. But we'll see. Lastly, Tarantino Trek seems like a very realistic thing at this point, and there's an off chance it'll take place in the Prime timeline. In a recent discussion, Tarantino explained how he doesn't quite grasp the concept of the Calvin timeline, which is kind of scary, but I mean, it's not that complicated. Though, to be fair, I'm not going to put that on him. I'm going to put that on the people that tried to explain it to him. They probably just made it way more confusing than it needs to be. Alright, there you go. That's it. That's all of it. And I did it. I made it in one video. What do you guys think about all of this news that's been announced? Star Trek Picard, Star Trek Lower Decks. Do you still even care about Star Trek Discovery? Star Trek Short Treks? What are you hyped for? Tarantino Trek? Come on, tell me. Tell me in the comment section below. Before I leave you though, I do have one more thing to say. There were people online trying to compile a list of episodes from the various Star Trek shows that would be relevant enough to the Star Trek Picard story so that new fans can watch those episodes before the new show arrives. Does that make sense? It's a very noble thing to do. And helpful, I suppose, if you're looking for that kind of list. But, and I really don't mean to gatekeep here, realistically, compiling that list doesn't seem possible. Star Trek Picard is utilizing and diving into so much more pre-established lore than, you know, what was expected, that watching just a few episodes in advance probably won't help you if you don't know your way around Star Trek. Now, that doesn't mean I refuse to help. This channel was made for new Star Trek fans, and I'm here for new Star Trek fans. I just think the better move is to watch the new show as it comes out, and in every review I do, I'll take the time to specify whether or not there's an older episode that could be interesting to watch in relation to what you've just seen. Rather than improvise a list in advance, treat each older episode like backstory that you discover as the Star Trek Picard series moves along. Okay, there you go. This time this is it. It's the end. Thank you so much for watching. Remember to like, subscribe, share with everyone you know, and as usual, live long and prosper.